the one matchup that I think could ruin everything all my confidence is how are they planning to cover Mike Williams? Not because Mike Williams is like this great wide receiver. He's a pretty good one. But we know that he, for whatever reason, like you remember with Joe Hayden used to just cook A.J. Green, but then Antonio Brown or Cecil Shorts would come to town and just murder Joe Hayden every time, right? This is something that's developed with Denzel. Whatever reason, Mike Williams cooks this man every time. It happened at Clemson. Yep. It happened in the NFL. I don't want to know what that's going to be like. Yesterday, I was watching Thursday Night Football, right? And I think Browns fans watched Thursday Night Football and thought one of two things, right? They thought, ooh, man, we might have traded for the right guy on the field wise. Or they might have thought, is he going to be rusty, right? And I don't know how you feel about this, but when I was watching Russ, I was watching a man who does not have the weapons that he thinks he has. Like I was watching a dude who thought he was in 2016, but he ain't got them 2016 weapons. And I think Pete Carroll was probably telling him, Russ, this ain't 2016 no more. You not that dude. We can't do this stuff no more with you. And Russ is like, I'll go somewhere and prove it to you. And he was looking real journeyman.
He was looking real. Listen, he been real regular for about the last 4 to 5 years, dog.
Well,
regular.
Well, I mean, he had a really good year, like 2019. He had a really, really good year. If you look at the numbers, it was like 40 touchdowns, something like that. But
it's a solid 3. Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah, he don't got the gifts. He's not Russ no more. Like sometimes he can be Russ for like 2-3 drives, but most of the time he's Russell, right? That's different. But one of the things that was brought up was I personally think people are panicking a little bit too much about, is Deshaun going to be rusty and all this because of that preseason game? Me personally, I feel like if Deshaun would have played the whole half of that preseason game, he would have looked fine by the end of it, and nobody would have even thought to care of it, right? But since he played, 2 drives? Everybody can have a bad 2 drives, right? Especially when you get all these drops that he got in that game. He wasn't playing with starters. Like,
and people act like he's not going to be practicing. He's going to be back in the facility in a second. And he's going to be practicing. And the whole time he's going to be working on different things and working with receivers after practice. And it's not like he's going to not be out there throwing the football around, right?
And let's be real. He's playing against the Texans, his first game back, which is great. He's going to have the motivation. He might be a little bit amped up for that. But the Texans are terrible this year, man. I don't know if you watch the Texans, but C.J. Stroud might find himself a Texan next year. You know what I mean? Like that. Mm-hmm. That's how bad they are. Bryce Young, whoever goes number 1 overall, they might end up a Texan this year because they're not good. But a lot of people are so focused on that Russ conversation, and I already get it's interesting the waves in which the Baker Mayfield allegiance in this city, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. They're just going to change colors, right? It's like Hydra. It's like Hydra. You know what I mean? In a Marvel movie, it's like Hydra, right? Like, hey, now they Shield. Like, they just changed their name. They rebrand, right? Because it went from Baker Mayfield or nothing, right? And then Baker Mayfield, he looks pretty terrible at this point, so they can't hate for Baker Mayfield no more. Now it's going to be, Kevin Stefanski's terrible. And it's like, okay, because he made the decision to get rid of Baker. And it's going to be like a bunch of stuff like that, right? Like, you notice Myles Garrett gets more hate than he ever has before. You notice that? You notice that? Suddenly after the Baker Mayfield stuff, right? After he played terrible, all of a sudden they moved on to hating on him. They moved on to hating on, know. And now the new one I'm getting is in my DMs is, hey, Quincy, I don't know why you're assuming that Deshaun Watson's going to be good when he comes back. It's been 2 years. And I'm like, because the last year he played, the homie almost won MVP.
Quincy, you talking that talk right now, bro. You talking that talk right now.
But that's what I'm saying though. Like, you see how they're shifting, right? Because now instead of it being Baker Bros and them going, it's being revealed as what it's always been, which I'm not saying everybody who is a fan of Baker Mayfield or a former Baker Mayfield fan is this, but there certainly is a contingency of a section of this fan base that has went from Baker Bro to just straight up anti-Browns, which they kind of just were to begin with, right? The anti-Browns crowd, right? Every team I guess every fan base has them. We're big enough to where they're loud enough to where we hear them a little bit. But that's been interesting for me to watch, is like these people pop up who are like, they're Browns fans who hate the Browns. It's just a blessing to be in a fan base that big that we can have a lane for the haters. You know what I mean? Because ain't no lane for the haters in Cincinnati. It's either you all in or you all out with the Bengals. Dudes, you know what I mean? Like
these dudes have been doing that since the beginning of the season. And here's what they were doing too. So when Baker, they done pivoted and shifted 6-7 times. So when Baker was injured, right? You know, and they said, well, he's getting back from his surgery or whatever. Then it was like the Deshaun Watson, press conferences and news stuff, right? They literally wanted Deshaun Watson to be suspended for a year so that Baker could have another year, right? So when they found out Deshaun Watson wasn't going to get suspended for a year, then it became, well, still, he's your best option right now while he's suspended for 11 games.
We could go over the whole Baker Mayfield saga. We'll have time. We'll do what Baker Mayfield could have been video in the future eventually, because ain't like the brother going nowhere, right? Like ain't much to talk about.
Boards in Carolina?
I already
just
know.
Like us.
They have speed ran this experience. So look, we'll have time to recollect on him. But what we don't have time for is a loss this weekend. Now the Browns play the Chargers. It's going to be an interesting matchup. Look, me and G tried to record this beforehand, and then it got corrupted. So I kind of know that me and G are feeling two different directions about this. Me personally, I'm confident. I think the Chargers are the type of good offense that the Browns can play well against because they're not efficient. The inefficient offenses don't do well against us because we can hold the ball longer, right? And if we limit possessions for the Chargers, that means that the chances they have to get these big plays are lessened. And the chances they have to get off the field because they miss a pass on third down are heightened. They don't have Keenan Allen, their best third down guy. We have at least Miles's presence back. Like if he's not Myles Garrett, like whatever, but he might have to you're still going to have to game plan like he's Myles Garrett. And I think there's a reason why Joe Burrow has never beaten the Browns. There's a reason why we played well against them last year, despite coverage busts. We had a chance to win that game, right? And it's because when we stay and stick to our game plan, which without Baker Mayfield back there and with Jacoby Brissett there, is more likely that we stick to our game plan, which is what they ran 35 times and passed 35 times. And that was one of the higher pass totals they had all year. Last week against the Atlanta Falcons. So you would assume if things go right, they don't turn the ball over, David Njoku doesn't fumble the ball early in the game, then it's probably going to be a heavier run pass on the run side ratio. You're able to squeeze this out. Now, again, it's going to be interesting seeing if you can get those chunks against the Chargers because they don't play with a lot of guys in the box, which is a different type of I've tried to explain this, and maybe we could do a better job of explaining it here. But even though having less people in the box technically makes it easier to run the football, it is different, right? Like, it's not necessarily you can run the same, especially when they have like Derwin James and these like really fast safeties. Because one of the things I was pointing out was the Browns love to pull like an entire side of the line so they can even up those numbers when they get those heavy boxes on the left or right side. They can't really do that this week because that play takes too long to develop. And even though they're not going to be as heavy, they'll be light enough to kind of disrupt those plays and get back there or backside chase it if they want to. So this, like, from your perspective, I guess, kind of tell us what's the difference when you're a team you're trying to run with these heavy boxes versus what Brandon Staley does, which is a lot of nickel dime packages. He's going to run some DBs out there. He's going to play Brandon Staley football.
So basically I think the Rams do this too, or the Rams did that a little bit last year. So basically what they do is they'll go to a 3-man front and they'll use like nickel 3-3-5, right? And put another defensive back out there. And so what you do is as a offensive team, they played a personnel game. So you're just going to look out there, and basically what you're doing is you're counting in the box. You're counting see how many people is there, and if you get to a nice percentage where you feel like maybe 7 or 8 in the box, it automatically tells you that's a run play. You might even go audible into a run play. But the thought process is traditionally correct, but it's not in this sense. They're not going to have those heavy boxes. So what it does, it invites you to run, right? It invites you to be able to run on that. They count 3 down linemen. They're like, okay, this is definitely a run. But what happens is they got guys in the back end that are disguised as pass defenders, but they actually are run defenders. So they want to muddle the middle up, right? They muddy the middle up. They don't give you any push in the middle. So then it invites you to bounce outside where they have leverage players that happen to be fast and can move around. So you may think that, well, listen, we should be naturally be able to run in this. If you don't get pushing, they muddy the middle up. Now it all depends on how you can get outside. Now linemen aren't going to be able to kind of just get out and run and move around. The defensive backs will run around them or cause havoc to a point where everything has to spill or bounce. When you spill or bounce anything, you're running east and west and not north and south. And that is what's devastating. Yeah. And you get tackled for 2 yards, 3 yards, and then you're 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8.
This is why I think it's going to be more of a Kareem Hunt day than it's going to be a Nick Chubb day, right? Because even though Nick Chubb, he's going to probably get a big one, I think Kareem Hunt's going to be the dude that consistently gets you first downs because he's one cut down. Like he's not going to try to string this out towards the edge. I think the more you try to play the run game laterally against this team, the more success the Chargers defense is going to have against you. I think this is about getting vertical in the run game, which we don't hear about a lot, but you need to. This is a week to get vertical, right? Just sometimes if you need to man block it, just have Wyatt Teller go up and just pull right behind him, like, and just run lat, right? Like I think running from the gun is gonna be key, right? If the Browns can get some yards running from the gun, I think that'll be.
Stefanski does not like to. I don't know why he does not like to run out of the gun. He doesn't run it. He don't run it enough. Where it's like, but it's not like it's always off tackle.
Well, because he's not going straight
forward. And he's going straight forward.
Yeah, it's like if you want to run, I think it's just depending on which back you want to run more, right? Because Nick Chubb's much better when he's able to get downhill. Whereas Kareem Hunt, you just need to roll him downhill more or less. You know what I mean? So with Nick Chubb, you want to run him with pistol sets, right? If you're going to run anything. I think they're going to run like a ton of pistol once Deshaun gets back. And I think you'll see Nick Chubb in these pistol sets a lot. With Kareem Hunt, you feel more comfortable running there. So it's about, okay, do we want to make this a Chubb game? Do we want to make this a Kareem Hunt game? Kareem Hunt's more successful as a shotgun runner or even out of pistol because he's just kind of one cut go, right? So if he can see it from the snap, he's fine, right? Whereas Nick Chubb, him seeing it before the snap's not really helpful because he stutters anyway. So they need to get him downhill. I think that's more about Nick Chubb being in there and just wanting to play to his strengths versus a style thing. Because if Kareem Hunt had to start, we would probably see 6 or 7 like shotgun runs a game from them because that would make the most sense. Whereas with Nick, I think you'll see some pistol stuff. When Deshaun's in there and you want to get that mobility, kind of like how Atlanta was using on us, right? Where they were able to kind of run some RPOs, read options out of that set, get some of that shotgun familiarity while also being able to get Nick Chubb downhill. So I think that's a lot about personnel too.
I'll save that. I almost asked you a question, but I'm going to save that for when we go on to part 2. I'm going to save that because I think it kind of plays into what you just said there because I think a lot of people are interested in what the game plan is when Deshaun Watson comes back. So we'll drill down on that. But I will say this though, Q. Can the Browns win this game? Yeah, they can win this game. Traditionally, the way they've been playing or how they play, the hope is you limit the amount of possessions that the Chargers can get. The worst case scenario is the Browns go down 14-0 and Kevin Stefanski doesn't commit to the run or abandons the run early in the game. And then you're dealing with Jacoby Brissett. And his game plan is just you want to get that to 25 throws 20. If you get him 19 to 25, 18 to 25,
get to 30. We let Baker get to 35. He can get to 30.
Well, here to me, preferably if you ask me I would rather give those carries or touches to Kareem Hunt. And I think, to be truthful, I think he has Nick Chubb on a pitch count. If you look at his carries, it's very rare that you see him up over 25. He like to have him at 18, 19. Maybe I see 23 a couple times.
Yeah, because you got to if he get 25, what you going to do with Kareem Hunt?
I would, so them 5 touches, I want them touches.
Kareem Hunt want like 10 though. Like, so you need to go like 18 and 10 to get like to 30 or 18 and 12. Like, this is how run heavy I would be. You try to run the Jim Tressel offense.
I want 15 touches for Kareem Hunt. 15. I still need about 25. I still need 25s, 20, upwards of 20 for Nick Chubb. And you can figure it out per se. I need targets for Amari Cooper too. Because I don't know where he went last week.
He was covered.
Yeah, he was
bracketed though. They missed him a couple times. There's that play where he keeps going angle. Jacoby loves to go the angle route there, and he should try to hit the corner. But I understand he's Jacoby Brissett. You know what I mean? Like, if this is Deshaun, okay.
Yeah, you could pick some of that.
But with Jacoby, it's like he's going to take what's in front of him. But yeah, I still think because they get cover 2 a lot. No, this ain't going to matter this week because they're not going to get cover 2. They're going to get 4 and 3 this week. So it ain't going to be there on that play. And the angle route's going to be the right read. But yeah, it's one of them things where it's like, also, some of the criticisms I have of the passing game, which I don't really have that much, given that they've been pretty good and efficient throughout the year. I mean, this is one of the better. Yeah, this one been one of the better passing attacks, technically in football when it comes to efficiency. So I really don't have any complaints there, given that it's Jacoby Brissett. But it's just one of those things that I tend to worry about when it comes to how the Browns will play on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
I think the one matchup that I think could ruin everything all my confidence is, how are they planning to cover Mike Williams? Not because Mike Williams is like this great wide receiver. He's a pretty good one. But we know that he, for whatever reason, like you remember with Joe Hayden used to just cook A.J. Green, but then Antonio Brown or Cecil Shorts would come to town and just murder Joe Hayden every time, right? This is something that's developed with Denzel. For whatever reason, Mike Williams cooks this man every time. It happened at Clemson.
Yep.
It happened in the NFL. I don't want to know what that's going to be like. Me personally, I floated this out there. I would test and see if you could live with MJ Emerson on him, because I think MJ is the right match, right? He's physical, he's big, he's strong, and he got ball skills, right? Just like Mike Williams got ball skills. So with Denzel, who's not the biggest guy in the world and not able to box out, when you throw a 50-50 ball to a dude like that, that's really like a 60-40, right? You know what I mean? Because Denzel's not going to be able to get into a fair fight with Mike Williams over that football. When you throw a 50-50 ball to MJ Emerson, that is a true 50-50 ball, right? So because he's able to get long, strong, and get in there, and he got that dog in him when it comes to like just willing to rip the ball out of somebody's hands if you're willing to do that.
And he's one of the dudes that's physical. He gets his hands on people. Like, yeah. He plays with a little bit of nasty and a little bit of attitude. Like, I think for this game, they might be okay. Denzel Ward might be okay because Justin Herbert is the good version of Baker Mayfield. Justin Herbert spreads the ball around, but he does that, and he doesn't really, like, if you look at Mike Williams, he's on my fantasy team. 1 week he'll have 10 targets. The next week, he'll have like 2 and won't do anything. Next week, he'll have 9 targets. He'll put up over 100 yards and a touchdown. Next week, he won't have none. So Justin Herbert will throw the ball to fullbacks, Austin Eckler to get the ball a little bit, Palmer to get the rock a little bit. So they may be helped out by the fact that he's not going to do what the Falcons did in response to the ground game. They're not going to do that like with the pass game. They're not going to be like, hey, we about to throw at Denzel Ward every play at Mike Williams. Nah, that's not his game plan. He's just going to spread it around. So they may get off the hook for that. But I'll tell you what, he destroyed us last year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, if Martin want to, like, Martin don't got to follow him, but if Denzel want to go to the weak side, yeah, we won't be on the trips. We ain't tripping. You know what I mean?
We won't be mad at you.
Yeah. But that's gonna be it for this part of not Q&A. GQ. We're gonna walk over to G Bush's channel, get this started.